Just Imagine, a podcast series by Imagine Theatre.
Yes, hello again and welcome to episode 126 of this podcast series. And this time we're going to talk to a BBC radio and television presenter who made his panto debut last Christmas.
For more information, go to their website at www.imaginetheatre.co.uk.
In the last episode, I was joined by Imagine's joint CEO, Business and Marketing Director Sarah Bowden for the first in a new quarterly series looking at a year in the life of a producer. If you're new to the series and you love panto, you need to check out all of the previous episodes because so far we've met all sorts of fascinating guests, from celebrities and backstage team members to panto practitioners and academics. We've discussed lots of different aspects of the genre, from specific panto characters and titles to how pantomime is produced, its history and its future. Now, there is an index to all of the previous episodes so far on the Imagine Theatre website, and of course you can catch up with any episodes you've missed so far where you normally get your podcasts. And while you're there, don't forget to subscribe to the series so that you don't miss out in the future. So this time I've been joined by the TV and radio presenter who you'll have heard on BBC Radio 2 and seen on shows like The One Show, Strictly Come Dancing and Escape to the Country. He made his panto debut at the De Montfort Hall in Leicester for Imagine last Christmas. He is, of course, Richie Anderson. How are you?
Hello, I'm really good, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. And our sort of paths, our career paths sort of started in the same way because you're a West Midlands boy. I think you were born in Smethwick, but your radio career started at BBC Radio WM, didn't it?
Yeah, it actually did. And funnily enough, this is actually my 20th year now in radio because I started at university. So I had a show every Sunday afternoon on Leeds Student Radio called Richie's Power Hour. How it didn't win awards, Martin, I do not know. An hour of cheesy pop, talking absolute nonsense. But because it was on a Sunday, I was obviously a student at Leeds in the noughties. I used to be out every Saturday night. So I do not know how I used to get up on a Sunday, walk from my student house in Headingley for 25 minutes to the radio station. And because it was student radio, I had to let myself in. They trusted me with a key. I had to switch on all the equipment. Then I'd do the show. Then when I graduated, I joined BBC Radio WM and had the best 9 years. So I was just 1 year short of a testimonial or a carriage clock. But just had the best time, actually. And it's funny because in my years at BBC WM, every year it was my job to go to the Hippodrome and to go to the Grand in Wolverhampton and to interview all the panto stars. So I was kind of introduced to panto through radio, which is my first love. So it's all kind of come back around, which is nice. But still on the radio now and absolutely love it. And, you know, admire people like yourself who've done it before me. And it's just the best. I have the best time. Even now, 20 years on, absolutely love doing it.
Let's go back to the beginning, shall we, to little Richie Anderson as a kid. I wonder if you remember going to see panto as a kid, you know, when you were maybe, I don't know, 6, 7?
Well, this is the thing. Oh, 6, 7, that was the thing we did in the panto. Was that deliberate, Martin?
No, of course not.
No. Do you know what? I didn't even know what that was, because I'm obviously like Nana Richie now. Although I've had work done on my face, so I look younger than I am. So that 6, 7 thing, I didn't know what that was all about. But when we did it in the panto, the kids and anybody under the age of 20 absolutely loved it. Anyway, I digress. So I didn't actually go to see panto, I don't think, until I was in my 20s. I didn't go to the theatre until I was in my 20s. So I was brought up in Smethwick, in the Black Country. I was brought up on a council estate. And going to the theatre, for me growing up, just wasn't a thing. It wasn't something that we did. But I always remember in school, actually, that I loved doing drama. That was like my favourite subject in school. That I loved it in primary school. I loved it in secondary school. I did double drama for my GCSE. And I used to always just love acting and getting into characters. And obviously it was only school, so it was never to any sort of professional standard. But I loved being in like the school shows and everything. But for me, actually going to a panto or going to theatre, it wasn't until I started covering it for the radio, actually. That was the first time I went. And I just love that panto is such a gateway to theatre, because for people like me, from backgrounds like myself that I'm from, it doesn't always feel that sort of accessible going to the theatre. It always feels like something that's quite expensive to do, or something that might be a little bit out of our price range. But going to the panto, and this is what I loved about doing panto this year and doing the school shows, for a lot of those people in the audience, and in general the shows that we did, that would have been their first time in a theatre. And for me, when I went to panto and when I went into a theatre for the first time, I thought, okay, this is a really accessible place. This isn't for posh people. This is for people like me to come to. And I love the fact that Panto gives people that opportunity. So I think the first time I went, I'm trying to remember my first one exactly, would have been like early 20s. I used to go to the Hippodrome one every year, and I still do. This was the first year that I didn't actually go and see it because I was in Panto myself. I remember Jane McDonald was in it, and she played like the fairy character. So I was in my element. So I'd have been early 20s, and it was before she did all the cruising stuff, the cruising programme. So she would have been Jane McDonald, Loose Woman. And I remember she played a fairy character. And then, funnily enough, a couple of years later, I went to see Suzanne Shaw, who I was in Panto with this year, in Cinderella at the Hippodrome, alongside Beverly Knight. And the vocals that those two produced were incredible. So for me, Panto wasn't as a kid, it was as an adult.
And the other thing is, you went to two of the best pantos in the country. Wolverhampton Grand's got a fabulous reputation. And of course, before the pantos returned to the Palladium in London, the Hippodrome had the biggest panto in the country, and the biggest names went there, didn't they?
Oh, I used to be so mesmerised every year when I used to go. Like, in Birmingham, and in Wolverhampton, I think in the Midlands in general, actually, because I felt it in Leicester when we did it this year, people love their panto. That two and a bit hours of escapism, being in the theatre, losing yourself in the characters, in the music, and that's what I loved about going to the panto at the Hippodrome. And you're right, I saw bloody Joan Collins do panto at the Hippodrome. I mean, she was only on and off for about, if you'd have blinked, you'd have missed her, Martin. And I tried to get that in my contract, but they were like, you are not Joan Collins, you've got to earn your corn out there. But everyone's done it over the years, and I just remember every year that I would go, it was just so much fun. Like, you're just going to turn up and have a good time, and all the stars would be there. The music was always good. The sets were always incredible. The costumes were always amazing. And I just remember like really soaking it up every time I got there and sat in my seat and just being like, wow. And every year that I went to the Panto, and Wolverhampton as well, because I'm glad that you mentioned both of them in the Midlands, because both of them do great pantomimes, turning up and just being blown away by how mesmerising it was. And no matter what I was going through at that time, whether I was happy, whether I was sad, whether this was going well, whether this wasn't going well, I just knew that when I was in that theatre watching the pantomime, everything would be forgotten for a couple of hours because it was just so much fun. And it was probably lost on me, actually, that I grew up in a region where two of the biggest pantomimes were there on my doorstep. It was just kind of the thing that I did every year when I eventually started going to them.
Now, one of the great things about the BBC is, and from my experience, a lot of people that I worked with in BBC Radio Leicester actually went on to work in network radio and television. A couple of them actually worked with you, Ben Stones and Namrata Varia. But your sort of rise to Radio 2 came in 2019, I think, didn't it? How did that come about?
It was kind of strange, actually, because I'd been at BBC WM for 9 years, as I mentioned. I was presenting a show in the afternoons, and I did a weekend show as well, and I absolutely loved my time at BBC WM. I think in BBC Local Radio, why it's so special and why I'm such a champion of it is because I think if you want to get into radio, you learn everything because you do every role there. So I kind of started answering the phones. I was a producer, I was a reporter, I was a presenter. I'd once commentated on the football, and once was enough. I think they realised that, okay, that's one thing you can't do. Let's not put a square peg into a round hole. Presented shows, covered elections, covered pantomimes. And I think, like, sort of doing BBC Local Radio, you do everything there. So even though I did a degree in journalism and specialised in radio, it was a bit like when you pass your test, you kind of learn properly when you get on the roads. And I think going into local radio is brilliant for that because you learn every single skill in radio. Like, there's nothing that cannot be thrown at me that I feel like I can't do in radio, because in local radio, because they don't have the staff. And you'll know from the two people that you mentioned who are supremely talented, they would have done everything in their time. They would have handled every single scenario. So when you do move on, if you do move on from BBC Local Radio, you feel in a really good place to do it. So for me, at the time, I'd started doing a couple of films on the One Show, and after one in particular, I did a film where it was about homophobia in football, and I came out to my football team. It was very dramatic, Martin, if you've never seen it.
I remember it, yeah.
YouTube. And the boss of Radio 2 at the time, he sent me an email just saying, hey, I saw this on the One Show last night. I thought you come across really well. I don't really know much about you, what you do. And I was like, funny enough, I'm actually in radio. I couldn't believe it. Like, the boss of Radio 2 had reached out to me, and I was like, is this a joke? I literally was like Googling, like, is this a prank? Like, is this one of my colleagues pulling a fast one on me? And then we met up, and then nothing kind of happened for a bit, because that's TV and radio. And then I remember when Chris Evans left The Breakfast Show and Zoe Ball took over, I got a call asking if I would sort of audition to be part of her team on The Breakfast Show. And somehow, Martin, I managed to blag the job and land it, and it kind of changed my life forever. Like, but the reason I was talking about local radio and what's so special is because I was really happy there. I wasn't kind of looking to move or forcing the move or sending my CV around or knocking doors. I kind of always thought one day I'd like to do more, but if it didn't happen, I was happy and I was in a good place. I was at a good radio station in a big region, and I felt like I was kind of moving up all the time. So I was kind of happy there, but then Radio 2 come out of nowhere, and it's an opportunity you can't turn down, and the rest, as they say, was history.
Well, you hinted there about your fabulous football career. I wonder whether...
Use that word loosely.
I wonder whether you had aspirations. It Coombs Wood, I think, wasn't it, that you played for?
Yeah, I played football all my life, so I've always been a massive football fan, so I support West Brom for all my sins. And by the time this podcast goes out, we could be in the conference, the way things are going. Like, it's not going well at the moment, but I always played football growing up, always loved it. I think, talking about limitations, like when I talked about doing the football commentary, I was never quite good enough. Do you know what I mean? I was always okay, but, if you threw a bag of cement at me, I'd probably struggle to trap it. You know what I mean? I was okay, I was quick, I was always athletic, and I always tried really hard. A bit like my career, I'm full of enthusiasm, I always try, I'm always on time, but the execution isn't quite as much as the enthusiasm, so that's where I was at as a footballer. So I was never going to make it as a footballer. So I kind of just did it for enjoyment, really. But again, when I moved to London and started on the Radio 2 Breakfast Show, because of the hours of that, and I was away from the Midlands and I wasn't seeing my other half, we were only seeing each other on the weekends, I had to kind of knock it on the head. So I guess we can say, Martin, we'll never know. If it wasn't for the Radio 2 Breakfast Show, I could have been a Premier League footballer. Who knows? We'll never know.
What a thing. An incredible broadcasting, television, radio career, standing in the way of the next Cristiano Ronaldo.
I know. Darn.
So TV obviously has taken off in a major way as well, and along the way you were on Strictly Come Dancing, and then this year you made your panto debut, and I wonder if any of your colleagues suggested that to you, because obviously Vernon had done it, then Scott Mills had done it, and Vernon had said to Scott, you would absolutely love it, go for it. Did anybody say that to you?
Yeah, it's funny because that's how it worked for me. So as I mentioned, I used to go to the panto every year. And genuinely, even before I was doing Radio 2, I used to leave the panto. And there's always the song at the end. So in the one that we did in Leicester this year, it was, shut up and dance for me. And whatever the song at the end was, I would always leave the theatre with it stuck in my head. I think that's why they put a really catchy song at the end. Mm-hmm. And I'd be singing it all the way back to the car park. And I'd always say to Dee, my other half, I'm going to do this next year. And it kind of never happened. And then I remember a few years ago, I went to see the Birmingham one, and Dr. Range was in it. Yeah. And he's a friend of mine, and I kind of know Matt Slack, who's the sort of comic in Birmingham. He's done it for years. So Range texted me when I was going. He said, "Come and see me after the show backstage." So we went and saw him, and he was still in his costume. It was like this big, because when they do the bows at the end, and it's always a really sequiny, shiny costume. So he had a big silver sequin number on, which is just Ranch, you know what I mean? And he said to me would you ever do panto? And I was like, oh, I'd love to. And he was like, look, you don't, you'll be fine as long as you can, he went, look at me, I just kind of riff with the audiences. And I was like, Ranch, he was so talented. Ranch is so annoying because he's so talented. He can sing, he can dance, he can act, he can present, he's a doctor, he's handsome. So he's the most talented man in the world. So I'm like, you're doing this because you are supremely talented. And he was like, Richie, seriously, if you ever get the opportunity to do panto, you reach out to the companies because it's so much fun and you will love it. And I kind of don't know how it happened because I've always been really busy that I've kind of never got round to. Me and my agent always have a chat at the start of the year, the things I want to do. And I've said for years, I'd love to do panto. I got a call to say you've been offered to do the panto in Leicester. And I knew it was the one that Scott had done previously. So I spoke to Scott and I spoke to Vernon and I spoke to Owain, who has done panto 2 years in a row. I think he's done Cardiff and Swansea now. Spoke to Geth Jones as well. And they're all like, it's honestly the most fun. It's hard work and there is pressure because people are coming, they're paying money. and it's on you to make sure they leave having a good time, and you've got to know your lines, you've got to know the story, you've got to be on it, and they will be on you to make sure that you deliver, because panto is important to a lot of people. But if you turn up prepared, which you do, and you turn up with your own enthusiasm, you will love it. And honestly, Martin, I'm not exaggerating when I say this, because I've said this to people now, they think I'm being over the top. It is one of the best things I've ever done in my life. Like, when I signed up to panto, I knew I would enjoy it, but I kind of thought, because remember when I said, like, I used to love GCSE and drama, I thought, you know, it might relight that flame, and I'll do that, and then I'll go back to what I'm doing, and then maybe in 4 or 5 years' time, they might ask me to do it again. But I didn't expect on the last show, when that curtain, because it doesn't come down in Leicester, it goes across.
Yeah.
So when the curtain goes across, I just burst into tears. And I think all the ensemble were looking at me like, is this a midlife crisis? Do we need to step in? I was like, no, I've just had the best time, and I love you all, and I'm so sad. I absolutely loved it. And then the couple of weeks afterwards, I literally had to leave the country. This sounds really dramatic. I went to Tenerife because I was just so sad that it was over, because I'd had the best time, and I was in this bubble that I love. Sometimes when I'm in a bubble with things, I can't wait to get out of it. Like, I know in this industry, sometimes you sign up for things, it's intense for a month, but then it ends, and then I'm like, oh, I've done it, I'm glad I've done it, but I moved on. I was so sad. I wish I was still in the panto now. Like, I wish that was just my life. Like, I loved every second of it, and I'm so glad that Ranj gave me that nudge, and Scott and Burnham, who previously worked with Imagine, were like, look, it's a great company, you're well looked after, it's professional, they have high standards, but if you hit those high standards, you will laugh every single day, and they were so right.
Yeah, I think that the post-show blues is something that a lot of people experience when they've been in a show that they really enjoyed being a part of, and it's something that the junior ensembles, every single year, the kids have such a great time, and they're always in tears for the final curtain.
Sad.
So,
do you know, I was on the tube the other week, because obviously people will come up to me now and again and be like, oh, escape to the country strictly, blah, blah, blah. But I was on the tube in London, and this guy stood up and like tapped me on the shoulder. It was a busy tube. And I was like, because I had my headphones on, I thought I was being mugged or something, you know. Because people in London don't really do that kind of thing. And I took one of my headphones off and sort of poked my ear towards him and he went, can I just say, I loved you in the panto in Leicester. And I was like, oh my goodness me. Like, then he was trying to shake me off, because I was trying to have a conversation with him, like, what was your favourite bit? What was your favourite song? What did you make of this? And I think in the end he was like, wow, I wish I never would have come up to this crazy person. But I loved it.
Let's go back to the first day of rehearsals, and let's talk about the process for you, because having never done it before, how strange was it? What did you learn along the way?
I wanted to have an anxiety attack. So I remember, because I came to rehearsal a couple of days late because I was doing a couple of radio shows. So I'll tell you the story. So Janice Dunn, who I know has been on your podcast before the rehearsal started, I had 2 intense days with her at De Montfort Hall in one of the bars at the side. Not like a drinking session. Like, it was just because we weren't allowed on the stage because they were doing other shows. So she literally sat me down from 9 in the morning to like 5 or 6 in the afternoon, and we went through that script with a fine-tooth comb, because she was like, you are not turning up to rehearsals because this is what I mean about Imagine. This is why I loved Imagine. You do have a laugh, it's good fun, I had the best time of my life, but they're professional and they make sure the shows are on it. So she was like, you're turning up on the same level as everyone else, I'm not having them 4 days ahead of you, and then you just, having to hold your hand through it. She sat with me in that bar at De Montfort Hall, and we went through that script about 85 times. It was just me and her. She was, this is how talented that lady is. She was doing all the other characters. She was doing all the other bits. I was doing my bits. So it was just me and her in this bar. And I remember leaving those 2 days thinking, like, oh my God, I think I'll be okay at this, actually. I kind of feel like I get it. And then I went away. I did my radio for 4 days. And then I remember I had to turn up on Thursday at some rehearsal place in the middle of Leicester. And I had to get there like 15 minutes earlier than everybody else, because I had to have like my measurements taken for my costumes, and I think they just wanted to show me the building. And then literally I waited in the rehearsal room, and then everybody started arriving, like Jack, who you might know very well, who's the Dane, was very lovely.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, he's like so lovely. And then Jared, who was our comic, turned up, and Hobbs, who was our beatboxing cat. Suzanne Shaw from Hearsay walked in. I had a poster on my wall, and I was like, everyone was just turning up. I was hugging everybody, and I didn't know what to expect. But I kind of thought it might be like, because Janice, who was our director, who had the 2 days with me in the bar, like going through. And when I say in the bar, can I just say, it was in the daytime, the bar was closed.
Yeah.
It was just because there was nowhere else to do it. And there was no alcohol consumed. It was just lots of coffee. Basically, she come in and was like, we've got Richie's here, everyone. Say hello to Richie, hello. Right, we're going to go sing one from the top. Now, I thought there might be some sort of like icebreaker or... I don't know what I was expecting, but I literally had to go into the scene when I didn't even know these people. They've been doing it for... I've never... Like, that was the most intense thing I've ever done. Like, my blood pressure went through the roof. Like, I don't know what to say. I thought we might sit down and all have a read through. She might pull me to the side and be like, look, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. She was expecting me to be on it because she said, when I left that bar on day 2, make sure you're still reading the script. I'll send you any bits you need to know. Don't come, like, you know, not on it. I need you on it. And especially because, you know, the role that you're playing in it, I want everyone in the ensemble to see you're taking it seriously. So it was kind of like being back at school. I mean, it was okay when I did that first scene, but literally, it's how I'd imagine if, like you were mentioning, like we were talking about football earlier. It's probably like we signing for a new club, and on the first day of training, the manager blows the whistle and he's like, right, let's go straight into a match. Like there was no warm up, there was no icebreaker, so we're straight into that scene. In a way, that really helped me because I think it sort of kind of just. I built things up and I kind of went into it, but I kept saying to Jack, I kept being like, I feel like I'm going to have an anxiety attack here. Because I was waiting in the wing to my bit and he's like, just do it, you'll be fine. Like, just enjoy it, just enjoy it. And I was like, I'm in front of a room in front of all these people. I'm not an actor, I've just got to do it. And then it's like, scene, and we're on. But honestly, Martin, I loved every second of rehearsal. Like it was hard work, it was long hours. And if you come and see an Imagine show, you know they're on point and we leave no stone unturned. And that's because we work hard in rehearsals. But also we have such a good time. I loved it. Funny story, because I've obviously never done acting before. And I was learning all the terminologies when I was there. Like I learned like upstage, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I remember there was, somebody said, we're going to do what was it now? We're going to do a bread and honey run in a minute. Somebody come over to me, we're going to do a bread and honey run in a minute. So I went over to all the guys and went, guys, let's get ready. We're going to do a bread and honey run in a moment. Where do I have to stand for that? And then somebody went, no. Bread and Honey is the coffee shop down the road. Somebody's going to do a run and get us some coffees. So that's where I was at on day 1, but I loved it.
I think a lot of people who don't work in the business or who go and see panto, even some people who do amateur pantos, just don't realise what a quick turnaround it is. You basically have 5 days of rehearsal before you go into tech, dress and everything else, and then you're open before you know it. And that's a tall order, particularly when you've never done it before, isn't it?
Oh, it was. Do you know what? Though I loved it because I'm one of those people when I'm doing something, I kind of like to throw myself into it 100%. So I was still doing radio around it, so I don't know how I managed to do a whole run doing radio and doing panto, but I did. But I like the tech run. I remember I was messaging Rylan because he was doing it in Southend, and I was like, "Are you doing tech runs at the moment?" He's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Is yours taking like 52 hours a day?" And he was like, "Yeah." Like, I mean, they're such long days. And you've got to stay so concentrated. But the reason why they're so intense is because the shows have got to be brilliant. Like, people are turning up, wanting a good time, paying money. Like, there might be families who saved up for months to come to this, like, panto. It might be their yearly tradition. It might be like a work night out. It might be a school trip. It might be somebody's treat for Christmas, for their birthday. So the thing that I would not like is to turn up to a panto and feel like, that was a bit flat. And actually, the reason that we work so hard in rehearsal is because we want the panto to be amazing. We laugh a lot, and, look, we're doing panto, we're not doing open heart surgery, so you can have a laugh with it. But also, they're long days, but I loved every second of it, and I learned so much. Like, that was the best thing for me about panto. Like, I'm 38, I've done quite a bit in my career, but I've come to this place where I'm learning new things, and I've learned things from panto that I'm now taking into my job, which has been brilliant, and I never expected that from it. And I'm just so grateful that I got the proper experience and they were on me, and we put on a really good show.
Yeah, a big shout out to anybody who works in the technical side of theatre. We talked about the 5 days of rehearsal for you guys. The tech rehearsals aren't really for the performers, they're for the tech team. They literally have a couple of days to rehearse all they need to do. That's why it takes so long. And then you opened. What was it like when you went out in front of that first audience?
Do you know, I thought I'd be so nervous. I thought I'd feel like I did on that first rehearsal when Jam was like, we're running the scene from the top, and I had to go straight into it. But I loved it, like, because I came out to like the Radio 2 jingle, and every night I got like a little cheer. So I was like, I remember a few years ago I went to see Alison at the Alison Hammond at the Panto in Birmingham, and she come out, and before she said her first line, you know when they come out, and I think she came out to like the This Morning theme or whatever, she got like a standing ovation for 2 minutes, and like the cast on stage were literally like trying to hush the audience down so they could carry on with the play. Mine wasn't quite that. It was like a polite woo, but I felt like Beyonce. I was like, oh my god, they're cheering, they're into it. Like I just loved I've never done anything like that before. Being on stage in front of a live audience is probably the most thrilling thing I've ever done in my life. And people would say to me, because obviously I think we did 38 shows in the run, and afterwards some people would say to me, like when I kind of went back to normal life, like, oh, does it get a bit repetitive? But every show is so different, every audience is so different, something always happens in every show that makes that show unique, that every time I went out on stage it was kind of like it was the first time again. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I did think, but before I started it, oh, maybe we'll get 2 weeks in and I'll be like, oh, we've got to go again. But every show, like, I would literally get the butterflies before we went out. Like, I was like a child. Like, I was like an excited puppy every time I went out on that stage. It's the most amazing feeling when you go out there, you see all the eyes, everyone looking towards the stage, everyone's on your side because everyone's there wanting to have a good time. And when people like laugh at a joke, like something lands, because that's the thing, like, even though you're doing the same thing every show, different things might land in a different show. When you see them singing along to your song, like it's well, you know, because obviously you've done it, but it is the most thrilling thing, and I wish I could bottle up that moment. So to answer your question, what was the first time like? It was incredible, it was amazing, but so was the 5th time, so was the 8th time, so was the 20th time. Like every time, genuinely, there was never a time when I went out on that stage. And I'll give you an example. I was lucky enough when I was doing it. I was covering Dermot O'Leary on Radio 2, so I was doing Saturday morning breakfast, getting the train back up to Leicester and going out on stage. One week I was interviewing Tom Hiddleston, Marvel star, and what's he in The Night Manager. And when we were playing the music, I was putting it down, like, wanging on to him about the panto. I was like, oh my god, I'm going back to Leicester after this, I can't wait, I'm doing the panto, blah, blah, blah. And all I could think about when I was in the studio with his mum was like, I know you're a big star, but I can't wait to get back to Leicester and do the show. Like, I was just so excited. And like when I was back on the train, I was posted in the group, I was like, how is Tom Hiddleston? I was like, enough about him. I can't wait to see you all this afternoon. Like, like, Martin, I loved it. Like, I just, like, even though I'm beaming about it and my heart is glowing because I just loved every second of it.
I know it's very different in many ways, but there are lots of similarities between panto and live TV, I'm sure, in terms of, you know, with a panto audience, there's always, you know, a variable. You know, the audience react in a different way. Somebody might shout out, you know, the kids come up for the song sheet, they might throw a curveball in there. You've got to be on your toes. And I love that jeopardy that comes with that, and that's probably similar to you doing the Eurovision Song Contest or, you know, live TV on the One Show or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, they're the same, but at the same time, there's lots of differences as well, because I feel like on TV, when it's live, you've got your earpiece in, and I'm so in the zone with it, where I felt like in panto, you live it more. Like, when I'm doing live telly, if somebody was to heckle me, like, I'm so in the zone that I probably wouldn't notice, whereas in panto, you're like, oh, okay, this has happened, let's react to this. I feel like you're more in the room and in the zone. I think in telly sometimes, you're getting it from A to B, and you know what you've got to ask, and you know what they want, and you know you've got someone counting in your ears. In panto, there is, although it is very structured, there is that room for, oh, somebody's just shouted out, or this has just happened in the middle of 12 days, and now we can react like this. Like, you know, on live TV, you're obviously it is reactive, but it is a little bit less sort of free than panto. But yeah. I guess people did say to me before, because the one thing I was worried about before I did panto was like remembering the lines, and people sort of say, oh, don't worry in panto, the funny thing is when they mess up. But I think what people don't realise is, like, a lot of the sort of, I don't know if I'm giving away too much here, Martin, but a lot of the sort of mess ups in inverted commas have been worked on in rehearsal for weeks before, so they're down to a fine tooth comb. And if there is a mess up, and I use that word loosely because I don't think we ever messed up, but because you're so confident with the script and confident with each other, that's when you can laugh it off and make a sort of a thing of it on stage, because you've got that chemistry, you understand each other, and because you've worked with each other for so long, and because we were really close cast, we knew, like, oh, he's, you know, I can dig him out here, he can dig me out here, blah, 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 blah. But you kind of have to earn that right to do that. I think a lot of people, and I did, I've got to be honest, before I did panto, I thought, oh, that'll be easy, just go up there, you know, learn the lines half-heartedly, and if you mess it up, make a joke of it. No, we've worked on it so hard. So if something happens where we make a joke of it on stage, we've earned the right to do that because we've worked so hard on it in rehearsal and we get on so well on stage that we can make a thing of it. It was a skill that I've never done before.
A lot of people think that it's a free-for-all, but actually it's a very disciplined form of theatre within the structure of the show and everything. There is room for manoeuvrability, for some ad-libbing and so on, but apart from that, it's incredibly disciplined. So I have to ask you, with all that in mind, would you do it again?
No joking. Absolutely yes. Like, my dream is to to be like the next Biggins. I want to do it every bloody year now. Like, genuinely, I absolutely loved every single second of it, not even minute, every second of it. I have got the panto bug, and I get now what Scott was saying, what Vernon was saying, what Dr. Range was saying, what Geth was saying, what Owain was saying. Like, it's just so much fun. I'm a bit like a frustrated performer. Like, I think panto allowed 16, 15, 14-year-old Richie to come back out, who was doing GCSE drama, who was the drama geek in his school, was in all the school plays, went on the drama field trips, absolutely loved it. And although, I mean, I wasn't, I'm not an actor like some of the amazing talented people in the show that we're in, but because I think I got panto because I'm a fan of it, because I've been to watch it for years, because I love kind of entertaining people. Like, it just threw all those elements together. Martin, it was honestly the most amazing experience of my life, and doing it with Imagine was really special. Like, I felt like I was part of the family when I was there at Imagine. Like, I was always looked after. They knew it was my first panto, and they got the balance perfect, which I love, between making sure I'm enjoying it and that I'm not left behind and that I'm involved in everything, and that all these people who've acted for years or are from the amazing stage schools in Leicester, or of, the celebrities who've done it for 20 odd years like Suzanne, don't leave me in the wake. But they balance that perfectly. Like, you're here to do a job, and we're going to push you, and we're going to test you, and we're going to put you out your comfort zone. And it was a beautiful medium, actually. And like, talking to you now, I've loved it because I just loved the panto. I loved Imagine. I loved Leicester. And it was just it's honestly one of the best things I've done. I enjoyed it more than Strictly. I enjoyed it more than anything I've done. I absolutely loved it. Like, it was just so much fun. And the group chat now pops off every now and again. I'm in awe of all the talented people I was in the panto with, like Jack, Jared, Hobbsy, Suzanne, Shaleng. Like, all the ensemble. Like, we're all friends on Instagram now. And when I see them like announcing new castings, I'm like a pro now, and I'm like, well done, you're amazing. And they're like, obviously not give up yet. But like, I just loved it, and in a heartbeat, I would absolutely go back to do it again. So fingers crossed, 2026. I'd love to be back on the stage somewhere.
I'll tell you what, I feel for Dean as well, because it's non-stop for you with television and radio. And then, of course, you were away for Christmas. You hardly ever see each other. And another busy year ahead as well, with much more TV and radio. I really don't know how you fit it all in.
I was glad of the break, you know what I mean? Like, he's out the house, thank goodness. No, do you know what? I think it's always important that when I'm not working, that we make time for each other. We're really good at that, actually. We're not sort of like... I think he gets, with the job that I've got, it is a lot of time away from home. It is long hours. He gets that. But also, he's got a great job himself where he works really hard and he does a lot of hours, and I have to respect that. But we are very good at making sure, right, so this weekend we've got nothing on. Let's do something together. We've got a little gap here, and that's just what it's all about. And for me, the only thing I'm certain of is I probably won't be in this industry forever, so I have to make the most of every second and, lap it all up now, because one day it will be somebody else's dream, Martin.
Well, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure. It was easy to see how much fun you were having in the panto, and that's, I think, predominantly down to your optimistic personality as well, which really shines through on everything that you do. It's been a real pleasure, Richie. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you. I've enjoyed this, but I feel like I've got the panto blues back now. I'm like, talking about it. I want to go back.
Thanks again. That's it for now, I'm afraid. Don't forget to subscribe through your favourite podcast app. Make sure you join me, Martin Ballard, next time for episode 127, when I'll be chatting to the multi-skilled lighting designer, programmer and production electrician Matt Ladkin.
Thank you for listening to the latest edition of Just Imagine, the podcast series from Imagine Theatre. And you can find out more by going to www.imaginetheatre.co.uk.